Hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. Each week I ask a question at the end. I'm not going to ask what that question is, but I'm going to reveal my thing that most people don't know about me is I have this weird interest in roller derby. And my guest today has the same interest, which we'll talk about, and we'll talk about a bunch more. But Breanna Gunn, how are you today?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. So you are Breanna Gunn Enterprises. So
I
tell me,
am.
what in the world is Breanna Gunn Enterprises? What's going on over there today?
I am a copywriter and marketing strategist. I have been in business for 11 years.
Awesome.
And when I was trying to name my company, I really wanted to use my last name because my last name's Gunn. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I wanted to use the name Hired Gun, but
Okay.
that's a marketing firm in New York, and they didn't like the idea of sharing.
Oh,
So I
come
just went with,
on, you guys.
I
Let
know,
her
right?
have
I'm
it,
like,
will
there's
you?
enough room for everybody. Come on now.
2 million
But
bucks, you could have probably got the name. I'm sure they would have sold it to you. So,
no, they wouldn't. I asked.
oh.
I asked if I could use the name. I asked if I could buy the name. I
Yeah.
asked if I could have a license,
Oh my gosh.
and
Nothing.
they were like, absolutely not. So that's how I ended up being Breanna Gunn Enterprises, because I figured I could still use my name and I could just have a personal brand.
Cool. Oh,
And
that's
yeah.
good. Yeah. So because I wrote a book and I'm not really sure what a copywriter does. Maybe I use different terms. So what is in the grand scheme of things, what is copyright and what does that do?
So I write the words that make the people buy the stuff.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
So there are copywriters who write books. I
Okay.
am not one of them. That bores me to tears. Um, I love marketing and marketing strategy and sales and all of that really juicy stuff, because
Okay.
I can see results a lot faster. It's a book is a much slower burn. I'm sure your
Yep.
sales are not, you don't get, you don't, most books don't blow up to $1 million in sales in a week. Whereas with a
Sure.
course or a program, you can see really rapid results and you get really instant feedback. So
Gotcha.
you know right away if the copy is converting and working or not,
Perfect.
which makes it
Yeah,
nice.
well, and I think that's a great point to start with because it's there's so many people creating stuff today, and you don't know if it's actually working. You don't know if it's successful. You don't know what you don't know, but how do you track that? I mean, I'm always interested to understand if I put content out there, and it just kind of goes, right? And then you put out more content. I mean, do you track a lot of the content that you put out for people, or how does that work from, I'm going to use ROI, in, the return on investment. How does that work from that perspective?
So what I typically track is looking at, you can, there's, if you have a decent CRM, customer retention management system,
Okay.
you can tell when people are opening an email, you can tell when people are clicking an email. And on landing pages, if you use something like a heat mapping software like Hotjar, you can actually see where people are engaging on the page.
Okay.
So having that real-time feedback and looking at, okay, email 2 that we sent out got 20 clicks, but email 3 got 2.
Sure.
Then you can take a look at those side by side and go, okay, this was more compelling. Let's do more of this.
Gotcha.
And you can pivot a lot faster versus like with, an entire book, you don't really know where you're losing people.
Sure. Sure. So, and I mean, people are putting out content all the time, and whether it's marketing, whether it's educational, whatever, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you go with your content. And I'm trying to understand where you fit in, because if I am putting out content, a lot of entrepreneurs say, you know what, I'm going to do my own whatever, tracking, I'm going to do my own whatever, and they never end up doing it, right? So I'm thinking that you come alongside somebody like me, and if I have a message and I'm not sure how to get it out, it sounds like you start by helping me with the words, but then there's also the second part is the tracking piece. And the tracking is for if I'm going in the wrong direction, it helps me kind of
Right.
configure into the right direction. I mean, I want people to understand that they can, have people come alongside them and maximize their energy, that they're already putting out the stuff.
Right.
It's like you just come alongside and make it better, I guess, is the easiest way.
Right. There's most of my clients are great writers. They just don't have the bandwidth or the time to plan and track and write and produce.
Okay.
Gotcha. So I come in and we create like a marketing calendar together, and we say, okay, this is the theme or what we want to touch on this week. This is what we want to touch on the next week. And then I write the content to support that. Okay. And then as the content gets pushed out through either social media or email or a landing page or, private message, however they're delivering it.
Sure.
Or even in a video, I do write video scripts too. Oh, okay. We can look at the statistics over the course of a week or 30 days, depending on how we're tracking, because everybody tracks things a little bit differently. Sure. And say, okay, we know that this bucket of things, maybe it's these 3 videos and these 2 posts did really, really well because they told a story. Okay. While these posts that were just sales posts, like buy my stuff, tanked. Yeah. So we need more story content. Okay. Or, this story is not working. Nobody's clicking on this, but this one where it was nice and short and concise worked really, really well. Do more. Okay. And then we do more of that. So we produce content ahead of time, but we also have the ability to pivot really quickly if we need to and adjust the content as it's going out so that we can get the best return on investment.
So if I'm not good at storytelling, is that kind of where you come alongside me and turn whatever I sell, whatever it is, I make it, I service it, I sell it, whatever my role is in that, you come alongside and help me turn that into a story then? Is that, if I'm understanding?
Right. So I would ask you things like, and this is a great tool that, if you're listening and you're struggling to tell your story, you can use, like, why did you create this podcast? What was the inspiration behind it? And you share what the inspiration was. Okay, great. And then I try to pick pieces out of that story and say, okay, give me more details about this piece. Okay. What park were you at? What were you eating? What were you wearing? Give me more. So I can take the overarching story and turn it into smaller nuggets of stories. Okay. And it's one of the most fun things I have because I learn a lot about my clients. Sure. I always tease them. I'm like, like you're part of my family now. Yeah. Like we're going to get really intimate here. Sure. Cause I'm going to know, I've had clients say, well, I was, $6 away from being foreclosed on, or I was, there's some really impactful things. And I think the biggest challenge for people is we don't think that what we went through is interesting enough. Sure. Yep. And so if you look at your story and you look at it with fresh eyes, like look at it from the perspective of, if someone else was telling me this about themselves, would I be entertained? Sure. Because most of the time the answer is yes. Okay. We just feel like, well, nobody's going to care. Yeah. And that's not accurate. Sure. There's like, I've shut my business down, completely closed my doors twice. Okay. Once for a medical issue that my son had where I didn't have a choice, and the second time to take a full-time job that I instantly regretted. But at the time they seemed like good decisions. Sure. And I don't talk about that. So I finally was like, well, maybe like just on a lark, I'll post this. That post is going absolutely insane because people are like, me too. Oh my gosh, I've thought about quitting too. I've done this. And I was like, holy smokes. Yeah. The story that I thought was not very entertaining is really resonating. So if you're struggling to get engagement, if you're struggling to get people who comment and like and share and do all the things that we post on social media for, or reply to your email, go back to the beginning and why you're doing this in the first place, and the story of how you started. That's great information. It's a great place to start.
And, I know there's people listening right now that are struggling with that because vulnerability has not been something that is on the list of the top 5 in their mind of core strengths of a leader. it doesn't show up right away. So I need to be this and this and all these, strong, assertive, aggressive, whatever the words are that a lot of entrepreneurs put in for what describes a leader. Vulnerability is usually at or near the bottom. And
Right?
so, we're kind of doing a 180 here. And the more that I do my podcast, the more I realize that vulnerability is really rising to the top more and more for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
So is that what I don't want to say expectation, but it kind of seems like that's an expectation of being able to work together with you, is that ability to be vulnerable.
I prefer it. I do have clients who are like, absolutely not, I'm not sharing that piece. Okay, cool. Like
Sure.
that, if it's off limits, it's off limits. But
Sure.
I think that we have been, as an online culture, so bombarded by the Lamborghini driving, pool jumping, mansion owning, mansion renting, bro marketing, for lack of a better word, where it's like, look at all this cool stuff I paid for.
Yep.
You should buy my program because then you can be like me. I think
Yeah.
we're over it.
Yeah.
I think that people have moved beyond it, and they want authenticity. And with authenticity comes vulnerability. And if you can't be vulnerable about your story, what can you be vulnerable about?
Yeah. So how did you get into this particular chunk of business? What caused you to get to that spot?
Oddly enough, I actually have a pre-law degree, and I planned to be a lawyer.
No lawyer jokes? No lawyer jokes?
Oh God, I love good lawyer jokes.
I don't have any. I just was thinking.
I don't have any either off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay.
But I went to work for a law firm because I thought I wanted to do family law and I wanted to help people. And I had this big complex where I was going to save the world. I think like a lot of us do it, 21, 22.
Sure.
And I realized very quickly that being a lawyer is not what I thought it was. I wouldn't get to nail the bad guy. I wouldn't get to do the research. I would have people doing that for me. And that didn't feel right to me.
Gotcha.
And so my husband and I found out we were expecting our son, I wasn't necessarily done with the legal side of things, but sure. I knew that I wanted something different. I wanted something more flexible because I was working super long hours, get in the office at 7 a.m. and leave at like 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. Yeah. It's a lot. And that's typical. Wow. And so I knew I wanted something a little more flexible. And my mom sent me a real simple magazine, and it had an advertisement for a website called Hire My Mom. And I was like, this is totally a scam. No way is this a real thing. Yeah. And it was a real thing. And I found my first gig, and my whole job was to check the email for a wedding company. Okay. Because that's easy. I could do that, right? Sure. And pretty soon they're like, hey, you have a blog, right? I'm like, yeah. Would you write for us too? Sure. Oh, cool. Yeah. And so I started writing posts on which shoes go with which dress. Like my favorite post ever, I got to do 50 different blue shoes for your something blue. And I had so much fun going out and finding all of the different shoes. Yeah. And I started writing, their simple blog posts. And then it was emails, just nurture emails. And then it was, hey, we're launching this program. Would you like to write the launch pieces? And I was like, okay. And then I got another client who did child sleep, and they were launching a program and they wanted me to write the copy. And I didn't say no. Yeah. I kept saying yes. And I kept building my skills, and I started taking courses, and I started attending classes. And I have a minor in business admin. Okay. So I'd taken the economics classes, I'd taken, all of those pieces, but I really wanted to know. I took a bunch of classes on sales psychology, and just really built my skill set. And 11 years later, here I am. Wow. So I love when people, have that transition from corporate America, I'm going to say, to, becoming a business owner, entrepreneur, following your passion, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So,
I try to encourage people every week, if we run into somebody where we can talk about it, this is awesome. If you're listening and that just kind of clicked for you, that's why we're here, is to be able to help you with that next step, and whatever that next step is. I mean, in this case, Bree turned her side hustle, I'm going to call it, into a full-time viable business.
Yeah.
And, think about whatever you love to do. If there's a way that you can get paid to do it, I sit when I am doing work with my clients and I'm thinking to myself, man, people are paying me to do this. This is crazy, but people, like you said, somebody wanted you to check emails for them, however that starts, whatever that looks like, whatever it is, rather than always have it in that box of someday I'm going to check that off. Hopefully this might be that trigger that you needed to just turn that into a reality. So, again, thank you for sharing that piece. I love asking about that, because I want people that have been walking around not full of energy, or maybe some negative energy. I want those people that aren't living up to their potential to live up to their potential, whatever that looks like. So I'm assuming you've had times where you're like, why did I do this?
This morning. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Not in a bad way, but it's one of those things where I think we all question our choices every now and again.
Yep.
And, I had a conversation with a client and they're like, I know we had you write all this copy for this other thing. We changed our mind and we need it by Monday.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, oh God.
Yep.
Not that I can't do that, but I had to have a reality and say, I can totally redo the copy. That's not a problem. We can, it's not going to be done by Monday.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, Fridays are my day that I work on me. That's when I do my podcast interviews. That's when I do my business stuff. I just published a magazine. I've got to go to the post office and get mailing labels and things for people so I can mail them hard copies of it.
Wow. What magazine did you publish?
I published, I know they can't see, but I published Copyright. It's a magazine for savvy entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants that's all about how to write better copy, how to make more sales, and how to leverage your business in a unique way. It's got, there are 6 articles by some really incredible women in here.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great. I'm really pleased with it. I've got a digital copy on Flipbook as well. So.
Okay. Well, and there's another prime example for somebody that probably 10 years ago, you never thought you'd be publishing a magazine.
Heck, I didn't think I was going to be publishing a magazine a month ago.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not like, hand to God. I got a client asked me to come speak at her retreat and talk about funnels, which totally my wheelhouse. Great. Let's do it. I get there and she's like, oh, and by the way, you're doing a magazine.
Wow. Nice.
And I looked at her and I was like, are we talking to the same person? I'm here to speak.
Do a magazine. I'm not sure I understand. Wow.
I was like, you want me to help you write the articles for your magazine? Cool. And she's like, no, you need a magazine. She's like, there aren't any copywriters out there with a magazine. And I was like, wow. I literally sat down and I was like, well, shit. Pardon my French. Because she was right.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes you just have to, I feel like sometimes God or the universe or whatever you believe in drops opportunities in your lap and you either grab it and run with it or you pass it by. And that was one of those that I ran with it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, and you have this, I had this comment of, or this question where I came up with in researching for today. And, it says, does 7 figures feel out of reach? For so many people, again, if you're motivated by money, this is going to be really important for you. If you're not motivated by money, I totally get it. I don't think there's a right or wrong what motivates.
But who's not motivated by money?
You know what? Interesting. I do a ton of work with DISC, Bree, and there's a lot of people that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
you know what? They're not motivated by money. Now, if you got to think of it, and it took me a while to kind of wrap my brain around it, because there are plenty of people that, and I'm using arbitrary numbers, they make $20 an hour, and they're driving home and they see a ad on the billboard that says you can make $21 an hour. And they're like, I'm going to go and I'm going to quit my job and make $1 more. I'm not saying it's right, wrong, good or bad. There are those people. That's a money motivated decision, in some respects. Then there's other people that are making that $20 and they see $21 and they're like, you know what? I love my company. I love my job. And again, neither one's right or wrong.
Right.
They praise me every day. I love what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. I mean, would you, for $10,000 dig ditches for a living? Some people would, some people wouldn't.
That's actually a good point. My husband just turned down a job, which would have been more money because we didn't want to move.
Yeah. So, so if you're motivated by money and 7 figures feels out of reach, your website and your LinkedIn profile, Bree, talk a lot about that. And so is there anything that you feel comfortable sharing with us when you thought of that question, when you started doing your research and starting building your course or whatever it is around that? What was kind of the thought in your mind as you were doing that?
It took me 8 years to hit 6 figures.
Okay.
Because it wasn't that I wasn't motivated by money. I didn't understand how to scale my business.
Sure. Yep.
Because as a copywriter, how do I duplicate myself?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I had to get creative with what my offers. So I offer strategy sessions now. I offer audits. I expanded. Instead of just writing copy, I also do the strategy side.
Sure.
Because it used to be that if you wanted my strategy brain, I had to be doing the copy for you. And now I've separated the two, which was a really smart move for me because it freed up a lot of extra time and a lot of extra space for more clients.
Okay.
But it's funny, that 7-figure thing. I think it's overblown. Right. I think that everyone thinks, well, if I hit 1 million, it's going to solve all my problems.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the people that go, oh my gosh, the lotto's at $4 billion. I'm going to go buy a lotto ticket and I'm going to go to sleep. And tomorrow when I wake up, my problems are going to be solved. I don't think there's anything wrong with 7 figures. And I definitely don't think it's out of reach for anybody who wants to hit it.
Sure.
And then the question comes, are you talking cumulative dollars or are you talking in a set period of time? Because those are 2 very different goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But looking at it instead from a perspective of, I believe that money is a tool and it is a tool we can use for service.
Sure.
So more money means I can donate more to the women's shelter because I support a local women's shelter that serves battered women. Sure. Because I went through a really bad relationship years and years ago. And I understand how hard it is to get out. And I think that the people that get out they blow me away.
Sure.
That takes more strength than you could possibly imagine. Yeah. And, more money allows me to do more things for them, Absolutely. And so I think that it used to be that 7 figures was like, you've made it. Yeah. Right. Yep. Yeah. And I don't think that's the case anymore. And maybe it's just, in my old age, I'm reevaluating some things.
Okay, you're in your 20s. What's this old age thing?
I'm in my 40s.
Oh, come on now. Don't be saying that. All right.
And I would not take my 20s back for anything. I was not smart. I actually started my business at 28, 29. So
there you go. Yep.
Yeah. So no, I think that the 7-figure thing, if that's a goal, like I want to hit 7 figures in my business in an annual year. That's a goal of mine.
Sure.
Is it the driving force behind my business? No.
Right.
It would, but it's a goal that I am going to celebrate hard when I hit it. Sure. And I think that, we're going to Disney World for a week. I think that the people that are motivated, whether you're motivated by money or not, that 7-figure goal has been, people use it as a hook. It's a very good hook.
Sure.
But I think, if you're looking at expanding your business so that you can hit that 7-figure mark, I think you need to be really careful of who you listen to and the strategies you implement, because there's a lot of noise out there about it.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily accurate. Being an entrepreneur is not a cakewalk. It's a lot of work.
Yep.
You don't have someone to pass the buck to when things go wrong.
Right.
And so I think that more than the 7-figure goal, it's, am I willing to put in the time and the effort that it takes to make this work? Sure. So that I can hit 6 figures, hit 7 figures, I don't plan on it taking 8 years for me to hit 7 figures.
Sure.
I totally see that happening in the next 3 years, but
awesome. Cool. Well, if somebody's listening and, I think about people that are struggling with their message, they have a great product or they have a great message, but they're just struggling getting it out. They're struggling sharing it. It's hard. I think if you have a really strong passion, it's sometimes difficult to, be able to extrapolate that to somebody in a real concise manner. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's struggling with their message, what are a couple of things that we could do to kind of, get through that? Are there some exercises? Are there some tips that you have for those people?
Oh my gosh, yes. So one of the best things that I ever was taught was to use voice memo on my phone. Okay. Because a lot of times when we see a blank Word document or we have a blank piece of paper, we blank.
Okay.
Because it feels like a lot. What I always tell people to do is go for a walk, step away from the computer, put the notebook away, and grab your phone and open your voice memo app. Every phone has one. You just need to figure out where it is.
Sure.
And start talking.
Okay.
And then you can use a tool like Otter AI to transcribe it. And you've got your story. I have so many clients. I have Voxer channels or WhatsApp channels with all of my clients because it's so much easier to talk through something than it is to write it down.
Okay.
So using that auditory piece is really powerful. Another thing that you can do is open a notes app on your phone. And these are all like tools for when you're moving around, because I find that most people get inspired in the shower or when you're physically moving your body.
Sure.
Not when you're sitting on your butt in front of your computer. That's just not when the inspiration comes. And
unless you're on a beach. Unless you're on a beach with your laptop, that's
right. Wouldn't that be convenient though? You sit down at your desk and instantly all the great ideas like pop into your head. But that's not how it works. It happens when you're driving to get your Starbucks or when you're picking your kids up from school. And so if you have the ability to have the voice memo app available and you have a notes app, you can jot down titles, subjects, ideas, things for later. And then when you get back to your desk, you can put them into an inspiration notebook. I think everyone needs a notebook that you put hard copies of your voice memos and whatnot so that you can flip back through it. I have 3 on my desk right now. Those are 2 of the best tools that I know of to help you get through a block. The last thing is what I call phone a friend. Everyone has a business bestie or another business owner who's in the space that they know kind of well, right? You've bonded over something. Maybe you've gone to a conference together. If you have someone like that, and if you don't, get your actual best friend or a spouse or somebody and just sit down and be like, I just need you to ask me questions. You don't even have to know what questions they're going to ask.
Sure.
Just tell them, look, I'm trying to get this thing out of my head. It's stuck.
Yep.
And just like you and I are talking, they can just start asking questions. And then as the juices start flowing, get that voice memo app out and record the conversation and get it all out of yourself, because getting creative with content and realizing it doesn't always have to be written. It can be video, it can be audio, it can be a drawing, it can be a magazine, it can be anything. Content doesn't mean written copy all the time. And so when you stop trying to force yourself to fit into that box, it makes it so much easier.
Well, and thank you for sharing that, because I'm going to be vulnerable for myself. And say for me and my business, Positive Polarity, I am really good at an idea. I can create an idea. I come up with these ideas. Like you said, you're just cruising along in life. And all of a sudden I'm like, holy cow, I think this is a really good idea. So I have a strength. That's my strength. What I'm not good at yet is, taking that and then implementing a story around it, implementing words around it, turning it into something. So is that where you come into play then for people that are struggling with the same thing I am?
Yep.
Is that where you come in?
Yeah. So like in your case, we would schedule like a 60-minute call,
Okay.
and I would just pepper you with questions.
Okay.
And we record it.
Okay.
And then I'll get it transcribed. And then I'll go look at all the answers and the things and be like, okay, so he's got all these great ideas. I'm really gravitating towards these three.
Okay.
And then I would say, hey, Dave, I've got these three things that you mentioned that are really intriguing. Let's put up a poll on your favorite social media app and see what your audience wants to learn about you. And then they'll tell you what they want to know. And then you don't have to write 3 pieces of content. You only have to write 1. And then you can obviously use the second 2 pieces later.
Yeah.
But, when you're, most of my clients are idea rich and time poor.
Okay. Yep. Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
You have no shortage of ideas. The time to implement them is where you get stuck.
Right.
And so they'll send me, I literally have files in my email box for each client, because I will get an email at 3 a.m. and I turn my phone off from 9 to 9. I think everyone should, to give myself a break. So I'm not checking email. I'm not answering phone calls, whatnot. But they'll send me this huge long email full of ideas. And then they're so exhausted just from the idea creation that they can't push the idea any further. So they send it to me, and then I can take and say, okay, this one could be a blog post. This would be a great social post. This would be this, this would be this. And then I organize them for you. And I say, okay, here's what I suggest we do with all of this. How do you feel about it? Great. Okay. For these 3, I'm going to need more detail. Can you give me more detail? Are you at a point where that's okay? And they yes or no. And we find the pieces where you can expand and go that route.
Wow. So, you know what, Bree just really uncovered something, and I don't want to skate by it as we start to come in for a landing today. I know that somebody on this show right now is idea rich and time poor. I mean, what a great visual. I'm getting these visuals as we talk about that. And if you're like me, and you acknowledge that, yes, I'm idea rich and time poor, you're standing at this kind of this juncture. And I'm either going to take and jump in and call somebody like Bree, or I'm going to continue on my road, which actually for me, I'm going to just, again, be vulnerable. It is frustrating. Because I feel like, man, I should do, and then I look at somebody else that's doing something similar, and now I'm like, get pissed off. Sorry, I just get irritated, right? Because I'm like, why didn't I just do that? Is it the $1,000 or whatever the dollar amount is? Is it money? I mean, what is it? That's where, again, if you're listening, I just want to encourage you to do something different than you normally do. Normally, you just take a right and you keep on going about your day, and these things just keep piling up. And eventually you try and write them down. Eventually you try and put a plan together. I've been down that road. I loved having somebody be able to take my words and my thoughts and turn them into an actual reality. So that's where, if you're listening, I just am going to encourage you to do that. Because
the other thing to think about is, if everyone should know what their hourly rate is, right?
Yeah.
Because how are we, especially if you're a coach or a consultant, or any kind of service provider, you should know what your base hourly rate is. Now that hourly rate could change depending on the task, but you should know what your baseline is.
Right.
If you take a look at your baseline hourly rate and you look at the amount of time you're spending trying to make that idea come to life,
Yep.
I promise you it's cheaper to hire a copywriter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why a lot of us have VAs, you know. I mean, my VA, Katie, does a fantastic job. She's amazing.
Oh, she's phenomenal. I was blown away by her communication skills.
Yeah, well, master's in communication, she better be, right? You know?
Yeah, right.
But she does such a great job and stuff that I, number one, have no interest in doing, no time to do. And she loves producing the show. She loves, you know, all the stuff that she does for me. Hopefully, you do a great job, Katie. So I know you're listening. So thank you. I just think that it's, you know, Bree brings up a great point. If you are, and again, arbitrary numbers, if you charge $250 an hour and you can get somebody to do something for you for $100 an hour, you still are net positive $150 an hour. Whatever the numbers are, unless you're charging $10 and somebody's going to charge you $20, obviously, then it's not a good idea. But realistically,
you probably need to reevaluate your business model.
Exactly. Right. Yep. If you're only charging $10 an hour, call me. You know, but I think that it's just encouraging me to even, you know, get outside my comfort zone. I'd love to schedule a time with you to do that because, you know, I'm idea rich and time poor. So I identify with that. So hopefully somebody listening today is in that same bucket. Hopefully you're not in the bucket. I just know you are. I see you guys at the meetings. We go to this time poor meeting where we all get together and we're like, oh, where can we get more time? And, you know, Bree's giving us a way to do that. So thank you so much. And again, whether you use voice memo, open your notes app, phone a friend, you know what? Phone Bree. I mean, that really is.
I offer free discovery calls. If you need someone to bounce ideas off of, I will sit with you for 30 minutes and help you get organized. I love doing that. And there's literally no strings attached. I'm not going to sit there and sell you on something you don't need. If it makes sense to work together, then I can tell you what that looks like, but I always ask permission.
That's awesome.
I hate getting on a call where you think it's going to be just a getting to know you call. And then they're like, oh, and here's my program and it's $80,000 and you should buy it right now. And you're like, I don't know you.
Yeah. But wait, there's more. If you buy now, you know, we can get 80,000 for 60,000, right?
Right. And if you pay in full, it'll only be 50,000.
Exactly. And if you tell all your friends about it, give me 4 names of people. Yeah. So I totally get it. I mean, there's a place for all those things. So don't be offended if you're listening and that's you. No,
there's absolutely a place for it. Just make sure that the person on the call is aware that is a sales call and not just a getting to know you call, because there's a very big difference in the two.
Cool. Well, there's been a ton of good stuff here. Thank you so much. I got 2 questions and then I'm going to let you go. So I want to know Bree Gunn's tip of the week.
Let's see. Go look at the content you've posted over the last 30 days.
Okay.
Look at what got the most engagement and repeat it. Don't recreate it. Literally just repeat it. Maybe in a different format. So if it was a video, transcribe it, turn it into a post. If it was a post, make a video about it. Wow, or do a drawing or an interview with someone else, but repurpose that content that did so well so that you can get that engagement again.
Excellent. And I love when our tip of the weeks don't cost any money. And it costs time though. You know what? I'm guessing 98% of the people that just heard that are not going to do it. And
which is sad because it takes, yes, it takes time, but honestly, if you have a post that's doing really, really well.
Yep.
And even if it's a long form post, let's say it's you maxed out Facebook and Facebook's like, you have to like finish this in the comments. Okay.
Yep.
That video is going to be a maximum of 10 minutes. If you turn that post into a video.
Yep. Cool.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
We sit and scroll TikTok and Instagram and whatnot for 10 minutes. Give yourself that 10 minutes to repurpose that content because 1, you're going to save yourself money because you're not going to have to hire someone like me to tell you to do the thing.
Yep. Absolutely.
And 2, when you figure out the content that your audience resonates with, it becomes much easier to create it because they will literally vote for what they want. They're going to like and share and comment on the things they want. Do more of that.
Yeah. Wow.
Repetition is good. That's what gives you, have you ever looked at like a sales page or listened to somebody and been like, I think I've heard this before.
Right.
it's probably because the person said it before. It just didn't click.
Sure.
And that deja vu feeling is great for sales.
Yep. Wow.
And so if you repeat that content, you're going to create that feeling of deja vu. So don't push that one under the rug. Go do it.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So the last question I alluded to earlier is, what's one thing that you feel comfortable sharing with the group that they probably don't know about you?
I used to play roller derby.
See, I knew it. I have such an obsession with it. I don't know why.
I love derby. My derby name was Guns and Whammo.
What's going on? Guns and Whammo?
Guns and Whammo. My number was 30-06.
Oh my God.
My last name's Gunn. I had to roll with it. Literally.
All right.
I was a blocker. So if you know derby, blockers are the ones that hit people with their hips.
Yep.
And I played until I broke my ankle, and I can't put the pressure on it anymore, but I still ref. I have a really good time. I have 3 different pairs of skates, and love supporting our derby girls. They're great.
Oh my gosh. That is so cool.
Do you go to a lot of bouts?
Yeah, Wisconsin prior to COVID had like 8 teams. So they would all go in one day. Yeah. We did more. It was a flat. It was
flat track. Yeah. Flat track is awesome. I played banked.
Okay.
But the league here is flat. So, and they do have different rules.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, they do. Well, because on the bank track, you have a rail. So you really can't go out of bounds. Like the track kind of holds you in.
Sure.
But yeah, the rules are a little bit different. So I had to relearn the rules for flat track to be able to ref. But yeah, if you're a huge supporter of derby, like, it's coming back.
Oh my gosh, it's so fun. And I don't know why. I can't even say why. I'm not fun. Oh my God, it looks like a blast, so.
There are men's leagues. You should look for there's intramural and men's leagues.
Gosh, yeah. I'm 50 some years old. I'm like, I don't even know. I play enough racquetball. My knees are I
love racquetball. Racquetball's awesome.
See, well, there's another thing. So now I'm going to definitely have to get you back on the show. Thank you so much for sharing all this today.
You're welcome, Dave.
If people want to, again, I want to encourage the people that are listening, if something struck a chord with you, I try and share this every week because, I'm a human and I learned something. I took notes. I'm going to reach out to Bree just for my own company because I'm like, she hit it on the head. I am idea rich and time poor. And I think of it just as like, it's normal to just have an idea and not implement it. And it just seems like, for whoever created a cure for cancer or whoever created whatever they created and solved something, I think, man, if they would have left that idea just go, it would have really been a bummer for humanity. So your idea might not solve world hunger. It might do something for somebody else that you never really knew. And so that's why
it'll save you a migraine, if nothing else.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So if people do want to learn more, want to reach out to you, Bree, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
The best way is to go to my website. You can go to breannagunn.com/book and get on my calendar, and we can chat and we can figure out where you're stuck and how to get you unstuck. And if it makes sense, I can tell you what my packages and pricing and programs look like, but I never go into it assuming that's where we're going, because I've been on enough of those calls and I run things a little bit differently in my world.
Yeah, I do too. I probably solve more on my free call, than a lot of people, because I'm like, this is easy. I think you should do this, this, and this. If it was me, this is what I would consider.
Yep.
They're like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. I'm going to try that. And I'm like, well, good. Are we done here? And they're like, yeah. And then I'm like, how much I owe you? I'm like, you know what? Go pass it along to somebody else.
I totally believe in paying it forward. And I think not enough people pay it forward.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, I love that you do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you so much, man. This time flew by. Again, took a ton of notes. I'm super excited. I'm going to reach out and get on your calendar. So
cool.
it's BreannaGunnEnterprises.com and then /book. before that. Oh, you made it
And it's just
easy.
BreannaGunn.com. No
Oh,
enterprise.
Breanna Gunn. Okay, sorry, Breanna
It
Gunn.
does. Breanna Gunn Enterprises does forward. So if you put that in, it will put you on my website in the right place.
Cool.
But it's probably easier to type in just Breanna Gunn
Cool.
with two N's.
Oh, that's right. 2 N's in Breanna. So don't forget that. And 2 N's in Gunn. So you got all these N's going on here.
I do have lots of N's in my name, which makes writing it really fun.
Cool. Well, hey, thank you so much. I again, sorry about the fact that the Big Ten, that the Badgers tend to beat up on Purdue, where you went to college, but then you said you're an Ohio State fan, so that makes it even worse. So this may never air. I don't know. We'll see.
I just don't fit. I choose not to fit in any of the standard boxes.
Sounds like it. Yeah, which is good for your spot. So awesome. Again, thank you so much. And each week we do our best to bring you people that can move you forward. And if she resonated with you, then I just encourage you to reach out and book a 30-minute call with her. It's not going to cost you anything, and if you're not there yet, jump on the website and see if something else resonates with you. So again, thanks for your time, and look forward to chatting again soon.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care.